I'll have the thought, like, during that last miscarriage, I was going to work that night, and I passed by, whose house, and I had an urge, instead of going straight, to turn on his road and, see if they had anything.
Last episode, I should say, because who knows when they're watching this, was your descent into addiction, and that was the end of it.
It was starting to get at the beginning of my recovery.
Yeah. So that means that this one is your recovery, how you got sober, your journey into that, relapses, all that kind of stuff, and then into your sober life.
Sucks sometimes.
Yeah. I am Dillon.
I'm Kris.
Introductions. So let's see. I forgot where I was going.
Well, it's going to be a short video.
Yeah, really. Cut. That's it. Yeah, so addiction, slide down into it, your addiction, and then you started coming out of it, but it wasn't an easy. No addiction is easy to come out of, whether it's drugs, alcohol, pornography, cigarettes, even. Like, every addiction is hard to get over. That's why it's an addiction. And so anybody who gets out of an addiction, that's something to be celebrated, whatever the addiction is.
Yeah.
Some of them are more catastrophic, I guess. So they get more of a negative and more of a celebrated thing when you come out of it. Like heroin and meth, they have more health issues, I guess, associated with it.
Yeah.
Than cigarettes.
Yeah.
I guess in a way they're more dramatic.
Yeah. I knew somebody that, she was an IV user, and she ended up with multiple bacterial infections from shooting up.
Yeah.
And, she's still struggled. Even though she knew what it was doing to her body and how bad it was killing her, she was still continuing to do that because she just, I don't know if it was just she just wasn't ready to stop. She just couldn't stop, but she eventually got sober. So she's doing good now.
Well, and especially when you start using needles.
Yeah.
You're in that state of mind, you're not worried about cleanliness,
No.
I would assume.
Some of them were. I never used needles, but a lot of the people, actually, I think I was one of very few that never used needles of the people that I hung around. But they were all very big about new needles. Like, there was times that they even had me go into the stores to buy them needles. So they were very good about that. I can at least say that.
Well, and that's good. But I know there's a lot that aren't. And,
right.
That's when you run into, all kind of diseases besides just bacterial infections.
Right.
That's probably the best case scenario of using dirty needles. But HIV and AIDS and hepatitis C and I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what all there is out there, but I'm sure there's a bunch. But anyway, so to continue your story from last episode, and if you haven't checked out seen the last episode, it'll be at the end of this episode. You can just click the little thing on the screen and go watch it. Nice burp.
Well, you couldn't hear that.
You couldn't, but I made sure I acknowledged it so that they know. You're welcome. So anyway, I guess start where you left off. You were last time you were going into rehab. You had just you had tried to call Lovelady at 9 when they said they opened. However, the 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. is a very important distinction when you're trying to call a place of business. And 9 p.m. is not the time to call a place of business. So,
I mean, they still answered, but not the way that I needed.
An answering machine does not count as answering.
No, there was actual people that's answering me.
Oh, okay. Anyway.
They were telling me that I needed to call at 9, and I continued to call at 9, not realizing that they meant 9 p.m. They didn't specify. So
they meant 9 a.m.
That's what I meant to say. Yeah.
So anyway, you got in, or you finally got in touch with them, or your brother did one.
It was either my mom or my brother, one of them.
And go ahead and start from there. So you finally got in touch with them. What next?
So they finally got in touch with them. I think it was my mom that did. And that was when it all happened so fast. I don't really remember exactly how it all happened, but they got in touch and I got picked up from the trap house where I was staying at, and nobody was actually there the day that I decided to leave. I just dipped. The first time that I left, I got to say my goodbyes. I got high one last time. It was like a big giant thing. And the last time that I went, I think the only person that was there was her son. And I told him bye, and that was it. But I got picked up, and then I ended up back at my daughter's dad's house. And then my grandma came and picked me up from there and stayed with her. I don't remember how long I stayed with her. I think I stayed with her for like a night or something like that. And then I got picked up and ended up at my brother's house, and they took me to Lovelady. And I met a lot of wonderful people when I first got into Lovelady. But I had also, been up for like a 2-week span. I think I had maybe 24 to 36 hours of sleep, if that. And by the time I got to Lovelady, I start trying to sleep. I'm starting to get paranoid. It was a lot different than when I was, out there. Because when I was, out in the real world, if I get to that, I could have somebody give me something, help me sleep, and I couldn't do that. So I didn't really sleep well in the beginning. And then they had doctors that you could go to and stuff like that. So then I started kind of utilizing that. And I got put on Seroquel, and I think I got put on gabapentin because I was trying to cheat the system. I was like, well, I can't use drugs outside of this, so I'm going to get them to prescribe me stuff that's going to help me at least get that type of feeling that I was getting. Like with the Seroquel, I could push myself, once I would take it, I could push myself to that tired stage. And then if you don't go to sleep right then you kind of start going into like I don't really want to say a high, but you still can you can feel different. Same with the gabapentin. And on the weekends, when I was there, I worked, start from the beginning whenever I first got there. When I first got there, I didn't realize that yet about those medicines. I got on, I don't remember what the type of medicine, Vixaril maybe, something like that. I can't remember what it was. But it was supposed to be a thing to help with anxiety and all that. And it was supposed to also help me sleep. Because my brain, even once I was done detoxing, my brain, even to this day, I still have this issue. You know that. I have to have the melatonin because my brain it doesn't want to sleep right.
Well, you also are ADHD.
Yeah. So it's like that mixed with, all the damage that I did to my brain. I can't sleep good. So I was having those issues, and that medicine was making it to where it was almost like Benadryl, but it wasn't a histamine. And it was putting me to sleep, but it was like really small versions of sleep. So even though I had been detoxed and I wasn't on any of that stuff, I was also at Lovelady and still not able to sleep. Mm-hmm. And there would be times that I'd be walking down the hallway and I would see like figures, thinking like there was one specific time I was walking and I thought that I felt someone brush past me down up against the wall, and then I turned and there was nobody there. And as you know, I'm scared of nuns. And I had I don't watch Conjuring movies anymore.
Actually scared of nuns.
I will cry. We were at a restaurant one time and my mom saw a nun and I wanted to leave the restaurant. That's how scared I am of them. But we went to Church of the Highlands for a Christmas thing, and we were on like a little bus type thing. And on the way home, on the way back to the center, I see another bus pulling up, going into the cafeteria, and it was a bus full of nuns. So I start thinking, these nuns are coming in this place and they're going to poison our food and we're all going to die. So I refused to eat out of the cafeteria for a week.
Was this before or after Conjuring 2 where Valak shows up?
This is after.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. She scared me.
Didn't you used to go to sleep watching that?
No, that was it.
Oh, it. Okay.
I fell asleep watching it.
But yet you're not afraid of clowns.
Nope.
Okay. Anyway.
It's just something about Valak. I don't know what it is. To this day, when you go to work sometimes, I get feelings that she's standing over me in the bedroom. I don't know why. I've seen her walk past the house on Proctor before. I saw her into where Mira's room ended up being.
Is she tall?
See, we need to stop talking about her. I'm picturing her head right now. Stop it. I don't like it. Anyway,
so you're having trouble sleeping. You're at Lovelady. By the way, Lovelady Center is what?
Lovelady Center is in Birmingham. It's I can't remember how many women it holds, but it was an old hospital. They got turned into a rehab. It was founded by Brenda Lovelady Spann and Melinda. It's either Magaha or McGahee. I never can pronounce her name correctly, the last name.
Anyway,
but
Brenda and
Brenda and Melinda.
Melinda.
And Brenda started it from her home. And, there's a lot of people that didn't like it. And they tried to boycott it, get it to stop. And she
people in the neighborhood.
Yeah. And she put her foot down because it was people coming straight out of Tutwiler is how it started.
Yeah.
And
Tutwiler is
it's a women's prison.
Women's prison in Alabama.
Yeah. And it houses like women and children. There's tons of children there.
Have a school for them to go to.
Yes. The school now is actually off property. They've been able to get like their own school.
Building.
Yeah, their own building for the school. So, but I actually worked at the school when it was part of the program when it was there. But
and
they
that's in the women that are going through treatment there.
Yeah.
Can work in the school.
Yeah.
They have they have
nurseries.
A thrift store.
Yeah, they have 2 thrift stores
that the women work at too. And then they have the nurseries.
Yeah. Everything that is done in that place, they have spots for the women. They have security that the women can do. They have house moms that the women can do. They have procurement, I think is how you say it, which is the stuff that people donate that you can give out. They have a store that the women can live in or that women can work in. They have the cafeteria, even the sound booth for the church.
I think even maintenance, don't they?
Yeah, maintenance.
Because I know they do have paid staff.
Yeah.
They do have people who actually like professionally do this, but they have limited number of those, and they have the places, instead of having paid people in those positions, they have the women do those things because it gives them work experience.
Right.
It gives them a purpose besides just getting clean and sober.
Right.
It gives them a purpose for being there. They have a job that they can go do every day.
Right.
So it's not just sitting around waiting for, when am I going to get out of here?
Exactly.
It gives you something to do and a reason to get up and go do stuff every day.
Yeah. Like the paid things that they have is the client reps. So it's the person that you go to whenever you're doing what's called phasing up. There's people that you go to if you just need something. They have the paid counselors. They have this guy that's paid. I want to say that he's like a CEO type thing. You never really see him though, but
normal CEO.
Yeah, and then I want to say some of procurement might work there, or might be paid, and then the thrift stores is a lot of actual employees. So whenever you graduate the program, you have an opportunity to get housing out there. They help you with those types of housing programs, and then they will give you a job. So there's been some women that can get jobs as client reps if they have something come up, or a lot of the women end up working at the thrift stores. They also have transportation. I forgot about that. They had one woman that was actually paid. She was over transportation, but all the others were women that were like me, that was just there.
Yeah. So bringing it back, so you're there.
Yeah.
That's in Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama.
Yeah.
And you're just going in now. You're just, kind of freshly off of everything.
Yes.
And dealing with that. What is that like?
Well, I finally got my medicine sorted. That's when I finally got on Seroquel. And I was there for Christmas. So I didn't get to go home for Christmas. A lot of the women got to go if they'd been there for so long. I had a little bit of an option to go, but a lot of us decided I was too fresh in my recovery. There was actually an older woman there. Her name was Angela. She was such a sweetie. But she knew that I was still obsessed with Dustin at the time. And she told me, she was like, no, she said, if you go, it's going to be bad. She said, you need to just stay here, spend time with us. So that's what I ended up doing.
And they do stuff for Christmas and holidays.
Yeah, we have what's called a tablescapes, I think they call it. And we get a voucher, and we get to go get a dress, and you get to get nice shoes. And then you come back and you get dressed up, and you get to have like your own fairy tale night. And it's with a lot of people volunteer, and they come there and they make the place really nice and special. And we just all get to come out and sit at all these different tables and have entertainment and have a nice meal. Like it's a really beautiful thing that they do for us. And
so did you have, it sounds like a dumb question, but for the viewers, did you have withdrawals, or did you, because of the medicine, it kind of tapered that?
Well, that's the thing. I don't remember. I know off of the heroin I didn't, but I was also off of that for about a month before I went in there, and I was doing meth. And I noticed that whenever I was doing that, it kind of countered. I know every person's different. There's a lot of people I've heard of that they were doing meth also, and they still had horrible withdrawals. I never did. With the meth, I didn't really get that bad of withdrawals. It was mainly mental stuff, just feeling like I was going crazy. I was extremely tired. I wanted to sleep all the time, but I couldn't sleep. It was just like, and then you also, no matter how tired you are when you're there, you can't sleep because they're constantly having you being busy. So really, I didn't have time to focus on any pain or anything that I was having, because they had us constantly in classes. They had us in devotion. They had us in church. You're always on the move. And I think that might be why they do that. Now, they do have some people that have really, really bad withdrawals. Like when I was there was a separate room when you very first get in there. And I saw some of the women that were coming off, years and years of addiction, like way longer than what I had been doing. And I think it's harder on your body that way too, if you've done it for so long. And there would be women that would be in those rooms and you would not see them come out for the entire time that you're there. And then when they finally do come out, they're just beaten and exhausted. And you can see them during, pill time going in there, because there was medicines. We opted out on getting the actual medicines. They actually had a thing you could pay extra whenever you do intake to get the actual medicines that'll help you through your withdrawals. And that's what a lot of the women did. But I didn't really personally have any of that. I just had the mental stuff. So I don't know if, I feel like that's just a God thing, that it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. And Lovelady is a faith-based
yes.
rehab. So,
yeah.
Because you mentioned devotionals in church.
Yeah.
It is a faith-based rehab. Which, by the way, I don't know if you know this or not, but faith-based rehabs are, and it might not be surprising to you because of our faith, but faith-based rehabs are so much more successful than things like AA, NA. I think AA and NA is like, it's either 1% or less than 1% of people who go in, get sober, and stay sober. Whereas faith-based, average faith-based rehabs are, I think it's like 80%.
Yeah.
Somewhere around 80% of the people who go in get sober and stay sober. till death is what
Yeah.
they measure to. So that, you know, it's good that you got in there. So, how long were you there for at Lovelady for?
I was there a little over 2 years. The program's actually not supposed to be that long. It's supposed to be a 6 to 9 month program, but I did not do what I was supposed to do while I was there. When I was there, I did very good in the beginning. I did everything I was supposed to do. They don't let you have your phones for the first 30 days. If you want to make phone calls, first, week or so, you go to the office and you can make phone calls. They don't let you have your cell phone. I would talk them into letting me get my cell phone to check certain things. But then whenever you get out of that, you go to what they call phase 2, and you still can't have your phones. But there's a phone upstairs that you can go up there and you can make phone calls back home. You get like 10 minutes or something like that. I did not do that. When someone would phase up, they would get new phones and stuff. And I would go and get phones from people, and I would hide my phones. And this goes back to my paranoia. I would hide my phones, and I would keep them in certain places. But if there was one time that I had just a little bit of a thought that they were catching on, and I went and got the phone. I put it in a bag of some kind, and then I went through the entire facility, went to the dumpster outside and threw it in the dumpster because I thought that they were going to find out that I had the phone. And if they find out that you have it, you can get started over. But they had no idea that I had a phone.
So you were there for a total of 2 years.
Yeah.
So going through the process of becoming clean and sober, I obviously already know the answers to all these questions, but relapses through that process. I know most people, and that's an important thing that me and JJ talked about actually on Treasures is, that's my other YouTube show, by the way, is that it's okay to make mistakes. And in fact, you're going to. God expects you to. I don't know why he sent Jesus.
Yeah.
So having mistakes is not like oh great, well now everything is over. Now everything, it's all back to zero. It's, I'm a failure. It's none of that kind of thing. Like God doesn't even see it that way. Like he doesn't send you to the back of the line. And
Well, it sure feels like it though when you're doing it.
Well, it feels like it because that's what Satan wants you to feel like. But going through that process again, were there relapses, and if so, how many?
I had 3 relapses, and it was always, the first 2 were 6 months apart. Like I said, I did good when I first started my program. I was working my program really well. I had no desire to use again, and gone home on a couple of passes, and I always spent time with family. And there was one time I decided to go home and hang out with a guy friend of mine. And he was supposed to, keep me in check and all that kind of stuff. Because I had stayed before that with another guy friend. I stayed with my mom and them. And then I got my friend Skylar that you met.
Mm-hmm.
I stayed over at his family's house for one of the nights of my weekend. Spent time with his sister, and his sister's one of the ones whose funeral I went to. She ended up passing away of an overdose. But I spent time with her, and I did fine. I even went with one of the other sisters to the park, met up with Jessica, everything was great. And I saw my friend Jesse there. You know who Jesse is.
Grew up with him.
Yeah. And so I talked to Jesse about, coming back another time. So he worked it out with me, and he actually came and picked me up. I think he was the one that picked me up. But anyways, he came and picked me up, and I spent, a weekend hanging out with him, and he wasn't going to let me run off with anybody, but I convinced him to let me go hang out with, I'm not going to say the name on here, but, the person that I hung out with. And Jesse actually, he left when I left him. He was just like, all right, whatever. And he ended up going to Nashville for the night. But I ended up over there with this other friend. And I decided I knew that they were all using. And I don't know why I decided to do it. But I ended up relapsing on meth when I was hanging out with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I ended up back at Jesse's, maybe. I can't really remember. No, I didn't end up at Jesse's. I ended up back over at my daughter's dad's house. But I had to go back to Jesse's because I left a lot of stuff over there. And needless to say, Jesse wasn't happy that I did what I did. But my mom didn't know. I didn't, tell her anything that I remember. Made it all the way back there. And I thought I was scot-free. And
right up until...
Yeah, that was on a Sunday. And then the next day, we're at work. And lo and behold, it was random drug test day.
It was drug test Monday.
Yes. So, and it was when I was working at the school. And it one of the women that she was actually a grad that got paid to work there. And, she's had a journey of her own, so she knew, and so she does my thing with me, and it comes up positive. And so she tries to ask me about it, and I was like, oh, because in the past, I had taken a drug test for a friend of mine. She was on probation, and I wasn't using yet, but I was around people that had been using, and somehow she ended up failing her drug test using my urine. So I knew somehow you could get secondhand and it would end up showing up in your stuff. So when she sees that I failed the test, I was like, oh, Candace, I promise I didn't do it. She goes, Christina, it shows that you're positive. I said, well, I was hanging around people that did it. She's like,
universal.
Yeah. Was like, she's like, honey, come on now. She's like, I'm not new to the game. I know that's not. I said, no, I'm telling you. I guess that the person I was around, maybe I breathed it in too much. I don't know, but I didn't do it. And she could just tell that I was lying, and she eventually got it out of me. And she's like, we gotta take you up there, this and that. And I ended up going up there, and they put me in what's called restoration, and that's where they put you. If you leave the program and you come back, you go through that. Or if you mess up in the program, they put you in there.
It's like a boot camp for the inside
it is like
of it.
An emotional boot camp.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
not physically, but...
Yeah, you were doing work every day. You have a strict schedule every day doing different classes. You're up like 6, 7 a.m. every day. You have chores that you're doing every day. And they have these movies that they make you watch that just make you want to crumble. Like,
Passion of the Christ.
No, not those.
Oh, no?
No. Hacksaw Ridge.
Oh, it's a wonderful movie.
So good. The Shack, but I never watched that one. They didn't play that one when I was
I haven't seen that. Heard of it, never seen it.
God's Not Dead. Case for Christ. I think that God's Not Dead 2 was another one that we did. And then there was this show called Aha. And it talks about all the different aha moments.
Aha!
And, no, not like that. It's the aha. And
that's what I meant.
Some of them, they do.
I knew it!
They do different things from like the Bible. Like, the prodigal son.
Mm-hmm.
They do a parable with that one where like the girl, she gets her inheritance and she runs off and she becomes, a drug addict. She becomes a stripper. And she finally comes back to her dad. He makes like the big, feast. And then the other sisters, they're like...
The whole time?
Yeah, like I've been
here
the whole
me?
time. Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, it was good. And then they have a couple other aha ones that we watched. But it's very, very emotional.
So you did that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of your rehab story in a sense. It all kind of looks like that. You relapsed, you did good. You relapsed, you did that 3 times, 2 times while you were there.
Yeah, I did.
So then kind of skip to the end of the Lovelady thing, and then entering back into, I guess, you could say the real world or, whatever, but entering back into life.
I made
it kind of go into that. So
yeah, I made it 6 months in. I was a week away from graduating the program, actually. That when I got out of restoration the first time, they actually put me back in my same room with my same roommate. She graduated, and I don't know, it was just something when that happened. I don't know if it was that kind of sent me over the edge, but it was a hard time. And I ended up switching rooms, hanging with my friend Coco, and Coco ended up graduating, or not graduating, but she got her grad status back, so she left. So I was left there by myself with Jen. You've met her. Yep. I ended up with Jen, and I just kept having.
Who's also doing very well.
Yes, she's married. She's got a baby now. Mm-hmm. Very, very good. We actually need to have her on here one day. Let her tell her story. Yeah.
Good idea. Yeah. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. But so when all that, it was just like I had lost all of my people. I was just having a really hard time, and I could just feel. I don't even know how to describe it. There was just this overwhelming feeling that I felt. And I was talking to that person again that I relapsed with the first time. And I ended up going to counseling. Pastor Leslie. That's another one we need to have on here one day.
Yep.
But I was on there. I went to a session with him. And he was telling me that like what I was going through was seeming like I was being oppressed. And he explained to me, the difference of like infestation, oppression, possession, and he was, he could tell that there was something that was just really oppressing me. And Jen knew that I was going to go hang out with that person that weekend. She kept trying to fight me on it, and somehow it got said to somebody there, and I never figured out who it was, but it got said to someone there that I was trying to do that too. But I ended up going anyways. That was on a Wednesday that he said that to me. And I went home that weekend, lied to the family, didn't tell anybody where I was going. Nobody wanted me to be going there. My mom video chatted me one of the times, and I pretended that I was back at the center. I relapsed. I didn't plan on it, but the first night I did fine on a Friday, and then that Saturday I just decided, oh well, and I did it. And I was cocky about it on the drive home. And I told my mom, I said, well, you know what? You don't believe me. You just call up there. They'll tell you that I'm there. That is indeed what she did. And so I but on the way there, I had a feeling they were going to do that. So I had them stop me somewhere. And I can't remember what it was they got me to drink, but I drank stuff to get me to pass that drug test to flush everything out. And so I get there and I pass the drug test, but I was up all night. I had a new roommate at the time. Jen had gotten kicked out at that point. So I had a brand new girl that had just met me, and I'm up all night, and she doesn't know what's going on. And I get called the next day to go talk to Holly Martin. She's another one that needs to be on here one day. She calls me over there, and I thought that I had deleted all of my messages. Well, she ended up finding some of the messages that clear as day says what I was doing, which prompted another drug test. And I failed that drug test. Or no, I might have passed it. I can't remember. If I passed her, I failed it. But somehow, she still knew, though, that I had done it. And so she starts asking me, well, what did you do? How did you pass your first drug test? Well, at that time, there was stuff called gas station dope. So I was like, oh, I did gas station dope. That's what it was. I'm sorry. She goes, well, we have a strict tolerance about it. If you did gas station dope, then we're going to have to make you leave. If you did something else, then we can work with you and you can stay. I was like, oh, okay. So then I told her what I did.
Well, then I didn't do that.
Yeah. I said, I didn't do that. I did meth.
Let me amend that statement.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. So they put me back in the program, put me back in restoration, and I was mad. I hated everybody. It was just a horrible, horrible time. And I finished restoration, but what they did, instead of doing like the last time they had started me halfway at the end of the program. Well, this time they brought me all the way back to the beginning. And I was just like not having it. I was mad. I got put in a completely different room. And this time my room had 4 girls instead of 2.
Excuse me.
It was 4 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I hated it, hated every minute of it. And I knew that back home at that time, my daughter's dad found out the truth, because the first time they just told him, because it's faith-based, you're not allowed to have girlfriends. Mm-hmm. So the first time they lied to him and said that I got caught, doing stuff with a girl. And that's why they put me in restoration. This time they were also fed up with me that they told the truth. So I was worried I was going to lose my daughter, and I didn't want to be there anymore. So I went behind everybody's back and I came home. And I relapsed that first night, because this is a part I didn't talk about in my original thing about my addiction. I also had a person that I had a John, I guess what you could say, with. And that person, I convinced them to come and get me. So that night, he comes and gets me, and it got planned out all perfectly, because it was Celebrate Recovery Night. So nobody was there at the front desk. I was able to just go right out that front door. And he gets me, and we go, and he gets a hotel room, and I have to do it because he came and got me. And he ended up leaving. And lo and behold, the person I relapsed with the past 2 times, I had him come over there. And I had a girl there with me that had left the program too. Her and her boyfriend got a room upstairs. So I relapse, and I'm just, living my best life down there. So I thought. And then that next morning, that guy was going to come back, and I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to see him. I didn't want to do that kind of stuff anymore. So I ran upstairs to her room. I called my mom, told her where I was at, told her I was back in town. I wanted her to come and get me. And I ran and hid out upstairs in that girl's room till he got me, or until my mom came and got me. And I went down the opposite set of stairs, worried that guy was going to show up and see me. So I ran down there, and Mama came and got me. And then we went to my brother's house. And I feel like I told her that day when she got me, that I had relapsed. Because I know that she knows, but I can't remember if I told her then or if I told her later. But that was on a Saturday that she picked me up. And I laid in bed that night, and my heart rate just would not slow down. Like, it felt like it was going to burst out of my chest. I couldn't get my brain to shut down. I felt the worst that I have ever felt before. You asked that earlier about withdrawals. That was the closest thing to withdrawals that I had felt. It was just, my body was just aching. It was tired. Like, I didn't want to deal with it anymore. And I told God that night, I said, if you will let me live and, make this stop, I will never touch that again.
Which sounds kind of extreme to ask God, if you let me live through this, then I will blah, blah, blah. But I guarantee you, I wouldn't say everybody, but most everybody who has been addicted to stuff like that has probably prayed that prayer.
There's been plenty of times that I've asked God to let me live through a night through stuff. I don't remember if I've always said I'll never do it again. Actually, I think I said that one time whenever I got really drunk and I thought I was going to die from pooping everywhere because I was so sick. But,
I never had that problem.
Oh, it was horrible. But anyways.
It's always the other end for me.
But I was having it on both ends. Like, my stomach just wouldn't stop. And I was just like, God, if you just make this stop, I promise I'll never drink again. And I shouldn't have done that because I ended up drinking like a couple months later.
Well, you don't promise God stuff.
But I have kept my promise to God about...
Yeah, so back to that night. So that was a Saturday that your mom came and got you.
Yes.
And then, go ahead, continue.
And so then she was going to your church.
Yep.
And she told me that she wanted me to come with her to church. They were doing, Pizza with the Pastors?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They were doing Pizza with the Pastors. And this little guy over here had apparently sent me a message that morning, and I never saw it. And I look at my phone a few hours later when we're at pizza at the pastor's, and I see that I had a message from him, and it showed that there was 2 messages. He had texted me that morning saying, "Hey, I know this is odd," or no, said hi.
No, I
Or
just
texted me saying hey or something.
I messaged you on Facebook Messenger and just said, "Are you at Journey Church?"
No, but there was a first message too. You messaged me twice that day.
Huh.
Yeah, because I remember seeing there was 2 messages. You had messaged me hey that morning or
Oh
something.
no,
like that.
I messaged you when you said something. You posted something at one point. I had sent you like 3 messages total over
Well, I know that, but
the
I had
years
I had
between
2 for that one day though.
between like when we were in middle school together, and then that day.
Yeah, the one in 2017. I thought you were one of the weirdos that was going to send a picture after I responded to you, so I never texted you back. I didn't know what kind of person you were. Like, I didn't want to unwanted this picture from you, so I was like, no, stay away. But I feel like you sent me one. I had 2 unread messages from you for that morning. You had just randomly said hey, and then you sent me one during church.
Yeah, I might have. I don't remember. I remember the main one.
Yeah, but that's why I thought it was weird that you texted me twice that day. You texted me, then you ended up seeing me. But I get a message asking saying, I know this is a weird question, but are you at Journey Church today? And turns out he had seen me from doing the drums, and he wouldn't stop and just wanted to hang out with me.
Yep.
And my mom told me, she said, you can either hang out with him or you can stay here with me and your grandma every day and never leave this house. So I chose him. Some days I regret that decision, but it's funny that if it wasn't for my mom saying that, I would have never given you the chance. I would have ended up going back to that other person that kept getting me in trouble, and I probably would have not stayed sober.
How long have you been sober now?
I've been sober off of heroin for, will that be 6 years? Since 2018?
Sounds like math.
19, 20. It'll be 7 years this year. And then 5 years off of meth.
And so it sounds, oh yeah, I came home before technically it was the program was over, and then met me, and then I'm clean and been clean for that long now. But what is it like in your head and emotionally, from that time of coming home to now? Like, what does it take to stay?
It takes everything in me every day. Because
Elaborate.
We've had, since me and him have been together, we've had 7 miscarriages in a span of 5 years. So the very first one that I had, it was maybe a year or so into my sobriety. And I remember I was in the shower and I had money in my bank account, and I knew the exact amount of how much it would take to get me a point of heroin. And I had this voice in my head telling me, well, you got this much. It costs this much. All you got to do is go up to such and such's house and you can get you some. And I just sat there in the shower and I cried. And then I ended up calling my brother. And then I ended up going over to your parents' house.
Mm-hmm.
Staying there. And then we had a couple of other miscarriages. And the last one that we had, what was our last one? Like a year and a half ago?
It was a little bit further back than that, but
no, it's been about a year and a half because I've just finally hit my year mark of being miscarriage free. So it was something like that. But
they all run together.
Yeah.
Because it was 5 years total of us being together. And in that 5 years, there's been 7 of them. Yeah. So it's hard for me to remember what was when. It just kind of.
Because the very first one happened in our first year of being together. So I was like my fresh first year of sobriety. We had that one.
Yeah.
And then we had the second one a year later. Then we got pregnant with Mira, and she was successful. And then after
and
her.
And that's why her name is Mira.
Yeah, her name is Miracle Amaris. It's miracle because she's our miracle, and then a marriage is promised by God because we actually went to an Elevation concert, and I heard a voice telling me, you're going to get your baby. And
1 month later.
Yep. Well, a month later, I found out I was pregnant with her. Makes me kind of wonder if I was already pregnant and just didn't know.
Yeah, well, I mean,
concert was.
Timeline-wise, probably.
Yeah. And
we found out because of Wahlburgers.
Yep. Wahlburgers. I went to heat up leftovers for my oldest daughter, and the cheese made me feel sick. And then I found out I was pregnant. But, so it's been a lot of heartbreak during these past 5 years.
So what does it take for you in those moments to stay stronger than the urge?
I just remember that if I go back to doing it, then I'm going to lose everything that I have now. I'll lose my kids. I'll lose you. I'll lose all of the trust I've earned from all of my family. I'll lose my job. Like, one bad day, I don't feel like is worth everything that I've lost.
Gained.
Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Yeah. I don't feel it's not worth losing, is what I meant to say. It's not worth losing everything that I've gained.
Do you have, like me, I have stuff that I say to myself.
No.
When the temptation is there, do you, I have, that I'll say out loud?
No.
And then people look at me funny at Walmart because I'm talking to myself.
No, I'll have the thought, during that last miscarriage, I was going to work that night, and I passed by, whose house. Yeah. And I had an urge, instead of going straight, to turn on his road and, see if they had anything. But it's like as soon as I get that urge, it's like there's something in me that just...
Sorry to that big loud boom I just made. My bad.
It's like as soon as that urge comes, it's just almost like it's just instantly wiped. I think it, and then I picture... It's not so much of talking to myself like you were saying. It's like I picture within a half a second, I picture what my life is going to be like if I do that. I picture what all I'm going to lose if I do that. And I realize that life would be so much worse if I did that than it is right now. Because the pain and everything that I'm dealing with right now is temporary, and I'm going to eventually get over it. But if I do that, then that's just adding more pain to it that no one's going to trust me for, or no one's going to trust me again if I do that.
Do you think that, well, no, sorry. No, yeah. Sorry. Do you think that most people who are, I would say more when you're looking at alcohol and substance abuse stuff, not so much cigarettes necessarily, that's more of kind of a habit type thing, I guess. But for some people it is this, though. Would you say that most people who are addicted to some kind of substance or hard substance or alcohol is because of, I don't want to say inability, I would rather say maybe lack of desire of handling hard stuff in life, I
don't really want to answer that because I feel like my answer is going to offend a lot of people.
Sometimes people need to hear hard stuff.
I've seen it too many times with people that have come to me wanting to get sober, and they'll tell me that they do, and then they'll instantly be back doing it. And I've learned that those people, they just don't have any desire. If you really want to get sober, that's what I was telling someone not too long ago. If you really want to get sober, you're gonna do whatever you can to make yourself get sober and stay sober. These people that say, well, I want to get sober, but then they find all these excuses not to, they don't want to get sober. Like me, I made those excuses. I had plenty of times that I could have gotten sober, and I was too selfish and about myself to do it. And as mean as this may sound, I've come across people that have sent me messages, and if I get the vibe that they, just by watching how they are, I don't respond to them. There's been one person I've responded to her, and as soon as I respond to her, within a couple of days, she's texting me, hey, I need some money. I need this, I need that. And then she's posting pictures of herself, and I can see in her face that she's doing it again. And I'm like, I'm just, as mean as it sounds, I'm not going to waste my time on those types of people.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people think, I'm forgetting where I came from and this and that. And a lot of people don't like my stance on it, but I've been in it, and and it's not so much that I've been in it as I have met so many people on so many different walks during my stay at the Lovelady. I've seen people that have been doing that for 30, 40 years, and they finally realized that the time was to stop. And then there's some of them that would stop, and I would be thinking that they're doing good, and then they leave the program, and then they're back. So I have learned, not just from my own experience, but from all the friends that I have, all the friends that that have died, because I've got 5 or 6 handfuls of people that have died that I've met from Lovelady.
Oh yeah, I know.
And from just my life. And it's because I don't want to say that it's not that they didn't have the willpower. It was just their desire to do that was stronger than their desire to get clean. And that's what I think it ultimately is.
I think it's, the old saying of you can't help, what is it? You can't help those who won't help themselves.
Right.
And if somebody isn't ready, then it doesn't matter what you do for them. It's not going to do any good.
Just like, as much as I love him, my brother, he, there was times in his addiction that he wasn't ready. Thankfully, he was ready before he finally passed. He was ready, and he finally got sober. But, it took him a long time to get there. There was a lot of times in his walk that and there was times even with him, you remember, I threw my hands up and went and talked to him for a long time because I couldn't continue seeing it. And a lot of people think that I'm judgmental and I'm mean, and it's just that, that's not what it is. I've seen it too many times.
Mm-hmm.
And I just...
Oh yeah, it's for a long time there, it was constant. Like, you would come in there, well, another Lovelady passed away.
Yep.
Well, another person we went to school with passed away. Yep. Oh, a friend of mine passed away. Another friend of mine passed away. And they were all from the same thing. I mean, not necessarily the same exact drug, but the same. Yeah. It was drugs.
There's been very few of them that have passed away from actual health things or car accidents.
Yeah.
I have a picture of me, and I don't know if the way that this editing is, if the picture can get put up there or not, but I've got a picture of me in a group with a whole bunch of different Loveladies, and all the ones around me. There's like 4 or 5 of them that's standing around me, and they're all dead.
Yeah.
And it's really hard. My childhood friends, Skylar's sisters, one of them died in 2021. Now, the second one that passed away, I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say that it was from drugs because I don't personally know. But she died within 2 years of her sister dying. And that was those are friends that I've had since they were, I remember when they were Mira's age.
Mm-hmm.
That's how long I've known them.
So what would you say to somebody who is ready? Somebody who is at that point, they are going to do it. They're going to make it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about the person who's riding the fence and, whatever, but the person who is fed up. I'm ready to be better. I'm ready to do better. I'm ready to be the person that I want to be. What do you say to that person? What do they... I'm trying to figure out how to word it. You found a reason to stay clean. You had daughter. I'm not going to say her name on here. Daughter at the time, now too. Me. Family, not wanting to disappoint them and all that.
Our dogs are a lot of the reason too sometimes, because I know that they
yeah.
What are we going to do with them? What am I going to do if I relapse? Can't take them with me.
No.
You can't keep them both.
Yeah.
Well, that might be a dumb reason for some people, but
that's what I was going to ask. Is not everybody has a kid that's waiting on them to get right. not everybody's got a family that's waiting on them to get right. Some people that are ready to actually make it stick, their family is gone, and that's part of the reason that they are where they are. So what do you say to those people who may not have all of those avenues of things to look at and keep yourself on that track? What do you say to those people? What's your advice to those people? That's a hard one.
Yeah, I know. They need to search deeply and figure out what is their reason. Like me, at the time, I didn't realize that I had that reason.
Yeah.
You gotta think really hard about what your reason is, even if it's just for yourself. If you love it, sometimes it boils down to, do you love yourself enough to get yourself clean?
And a lot of them would say no.
Yeah, and that's the problem, because a lot of people that are doing this they start using is because they don't have that self-worth. Because a lot of them have had, traumas. They've had, losing their kids, to custody. Well, some of them to custody too, but they've lost their kids. Their kids have died. They've lost their mother. They've lost their family. I knew a girl, she started using after her mom had died. And that was, her whole world. You've got people that lose their siblings and they don't know how to cope. You got people that were brought up in horrible homes and they're estranged from their parents and they don't have family, and that they were caught up in trafficking, they were caught up in prostitution. There's so many different types of people out there, and so it has to come down to, they want to do it for themselves, but some of them, like you said, they don't even love themselves because of the lives that they've lived. So at that point, if they can't do it for themselves, then honestly,
well, that's what I was going to say is you have, if you don't love yourself enough to do it, make it stick and make it work, there's a legitimate reason to feel that way. There's a lot of legitimate reasons to feel that way. But that's when it comes down to, you have to stop looking at yourself through your eyes. You're looking at yourself through your eyes. You know all the stuff you've done. You know all the mistakes. So you see yourself as this failure. And that's, well, I don't love me. Why would I want to, But there is somebody who does look at you with all of that. With the pain, with the mistakes, with the stupidity, with all the crap that we all got. And that person's looking at you going, yeah, I see all that. But I don't see you for who you are. I see you for who you will be. And that's the person that you fight for. You don't see it yet, but you fight for that person anyway until you do see them. Because there is somebody out there who sees that person. And it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter how you feel. You push for that person who's waiting to be seen.
Yeah.
Because they deserve to be seen. You've had your chance to be seen.
Right.
And we've seen how that went.
Yeah.
It's time to let the real person show up and let them have a go at it. And I don't know. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
That would be, if you don't have anything else, even if you don't believe in God, even if you don't want to go down that path, because I'm not going to push that on anybody, but even if you don't, look at it from that perspective.
Well, because if I didn't have, my family and my kids, you would have been that person.
Yeah.
Because you were there waiting. If I hadn't gotten myself better the way that I was when we got together, you wouldn't have wanted anything to do with me. Yes.
Yeah, the first day we talked, you were still coming down.
Yeah.
Because you relapsed on that Friday night into Saturday, and then I saw you on Sunday at church. Which, by the way, that's another thing.
Did you tell that I was still high?
No, you were all the way across the sanctuary.
No, I'm talking about, didn't we actually see each other?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. But that is another thing, is and then we'll wrap it up because we're just over an hour now. So, but there are some churches that are like this, if you don't have it all together, don't come in the door.
Yeah.
There are those churches. Don't go to those churches.
No.
That's not a church.
But unfortunately, you don't know that's that type of church until you get there.
Well, just walk in the door, and if they look at you funny, then
Just walk out. Just turn right around.
Not really. I mean, spend a little bit of time and try.
No,
but
I wouldn't.
No, sometimes people are like me. Look at you. You walk in the door, and I'm like, you got a gun or not? Because I did security there, so
Yeah.
it's like, but plus I just kind of look that way. I get told that all the time.
Yeah, remember Kris thought that you were.
Your brother thought I was a cop when he first met me. I'm not.
He wouldn't even talk to you.
Nope. But there's more people who think I've got to get it together before I can go into a church, and that's just absolutely not true. You're the kind of person we want in church, the kind of person that's supposed to be there, that is kind of like designed for. You don't have to be perfect to walk in the church, because I guarantee you, I promise you, beyond the shadow of any doubt, that not one butt in one of those seats is perfect. Not even the butt standing behind the pulpit.
I was about to say, not even the pastor himself.
As the old timers say, there's only been one person to ever walk this planet that was perfect, and that was Jesus, and none of us are him. And it's true. That's kind of the reason Jesus died, because we're not perfect. So don't think you got to have it together. You can walk up into church high as a kite, and I don't care.
Pastor Rod didn't even realize that I was high until I talked to him a couple of years later and told him. He goes, "Oh, you were?" Yep. Sure was.
Well, I'm glad you came.
I think that's what he said, actually.
Yeah. Either next time or, at some point, depending on how we can line people up, and I give my story, I'll give a perfect example of how imperfect you can be and still be in the church, and be welcomed in the church. So, but then, that does, I think, wrap us up, for this episode. So, I'm going to get the link for Lovelady and put it in the description, on this, on YouTube. And also, if anybody has made their way out of addiction and wants to help people with that story, we want to talk to you. That's what this show is for, is to encourage people to get clean and get sober and stay that way. Email is in the description. I really don't know how to find the email on YouTube. I just know how to type it in the blank but it's on YouTube. The email's on YouTube. It's something like rawrecoveryshow@gmail or something like that. Raw Recovery Pod, something. Anyway, it's on YouTube. Thing. So just look it up. Oh, I forget I edit this crap. I can just put it on the screen. Hang on. Let me find how this thing works. Hang on. Nope, that ain't gonna work. Okay, it's at the bottom of the screen. You'll find it. Anyway, see you next time. Bye.
Bye.